What if the man you trusted most with your golden years was secretly building your ruin, brick by brick, behind your back? We sold more than a house. We sold our history. Downsizing didn't buy us freedom. It ripped the cover off a devastating secret that would cost us everything. The freedom we thought we bought was a lie, and I didn't know it yet. It feels like another lifetime, but it was only a few years ago. Our life was full. We had that sprawling 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where you hang Christmas lights on the porch and listen to lawnmowers on a Saturday morning. Of course, it was too big for us. The kids had been gone for almost 10 years. Their old bedrooms were a guest room and a place my hobbies went to die. A dusty sewing machine, a half-finished quilt. But the silence in that house was different. It was a peaceful silence, filled with the warmth of 38 years of memories. My husband David and I were a team. That's what I believed my entire adult life. He was the steady one. For 35 years, he went to the same manufacturing plant, proud of the pension he was earning. He called it our unshakable foundation. I ran the house, raised our kids, and made our home the place everyone wanted to be. We had our roles. It felt safe. As a wife and a mother, I put my complete faith in him. Our finances were the same. David handled the big picture, the investments, the 401k. I handled the household budget. It was a setup that seemed to work, so I never questioned it. I trusted him completely. When he'd talk about retirement, his eyes would light up. He had this whole vision. We even went to an RV lot once just to look. He held my hand, and we sat in the driver's seat, him talking about the sunsets we'd watch over the Grand Canyon. The idea of downsizing came up slowly, then all at once. "Think about it," David would say. "We sell this place, walk away with a huge nest egg. We buy a small condo, no yard work, no stress. The rest goes straight into our retirement. It's the smart move." Looking back, the signs were all there. There was an urgency in his voice that I mistook for enthusiasm. He was getting strange, quiet phone calls he'd take in the other room. Leaving the house was an emotional marathon. Going through decades of our life, baby clothes, school projects, photo albums, felt like saying goodbye over and over again. Our friends and family thought we were geniuses. "You two are so smart," my sister told me, "getting ahead of it all." We sold the house for a great price. The day we signed the closing papers, I remember his hand trembled just a little as he held the pen. He squeezed my hand afterward and whispered, "This is it, honey." The first day of the rest of our lives. No more worries. We bought a clean, modern 2-bedroom condo that had no soul at all. The money from the house sale felt like an infinite resource. David took care of the transfer. He told me he was rolling it and our 401k into a special high-growth fund his new financial advisor recommended. "It's a bit more aggressive," he said, showing me colorful charts where the lines only went up. "But this guy's a genius." I just nodded. He was my husband. I had no idea he was leading us right off a cliff. But what he wasn't telling me would shatter everything. The first year was a blur of adjustment. We took a few trips. David had retired and started golfing constantly. Looking back, I see his busyness wasn't happiness. It was a frantic attempt to outrun the truth. The first crack appeared as a piece of mail I opened by mistake. A statement from a brokerage firm I'd never heard of, filled with words like options trading and margin calls. When I asked David about it, a flash of irritation crossed his face. "Oh, that's just some speculative stuff the advisor is doing. It's how you get big returns. Don't worry about it." He took the paper from my hand, and with it, the first thread of the life I thought I knew. Then came the call from the pension administrator. A simple call to confirm a change. I mentioned it to David that evening. He didn't look at me. "I took a lump sum payout," he said, his voice too loud. Our pension was supposed to be a rock. Instead, he had turned it into sand. "It's a better deal," he insisted. "Why take a small check every month when we can have the capital working for us?" It's just math. That decision, the one he made completely on his own, was the beginning of the end. And that wasn't the worst part. It was just the beginning. The floor fell out from under me about 18 months after we moved. David had become a ghost, tense, irritable, locking himself in his office for hours. His hands started shaking all the time. One afternoon, he came out, his face gray. He looked 10 years older. My heart started pounding in my chest before he even spoke. I waited in a silence so heavy I could barely breathe. "I need to tell you something," he whispered. And then, the confession. The genius financial advisor was an old high school buddy who got into day trading. There was no safe portfolio. David, caught up in a mix of greed and fear of not having enough, had handed over everything. The money from our house, the lump sum from his pension, our entire 401k. He had gambled our life away. He'd been chasing losses for months, making riskier and riskier bets to win it back, even taking a secret loan against our condo. When the market dipped, everything was wiped out. But the betrayal was so much deeper. He admitted he'd been secretly making risky trades for years, even before we sold the house. Downsizing wasn't a retirement strategy. It was a desperate move to get more cash for a gambling addiction he'd hidden from me for over a decade. Our family home, our history, was just a poker chip to him. For years, he would hold me and say, "We're a team. I'll always take care of us." That man was a stranger. The man who held my hand as we dreamed in that RV parking lot was lying. How do you mourn someone who's still alive? I'd look at his face, the same face I'd woken up to for almost 40 years, and I didn't recognize him anymore. The man I married was gone. He hadn't just lost our money. He had burned 38 years of trust to the ground. Our marriage was bankrupt. Our future was gone. The days that followed were a blur of suffocating silence and explosions of grief. I'd ask, "How? How could you do this to us?" And he had no answer, only a hollowed-out shame. Then came the 1,000 little cuts of our new reality. The first time my credit card was declined at the grocery store. My face burned with a shame so hot I thought I might faint. I had to put back the milk, the bread, the few small treats I'd picked out. I remember avoiding friends at church, terrified they'd ask about our retirement trips. The loneliness was a crushing weight. The shame was paralyzing. I remember calling my sister, my voice cracking as I tried to explain that it was all gone. The silence on the other end of the line was an earthquake, rearranging everything I knew about my place in the world. I could hear something break between my children and their father, something that may never be repaired. My mother's generation, they always had what they called egg money, a little cash tucked away that was just theirs. I used to think it was old-fashioned, a sign they didn't fully trust their husbands. I understand now. My friends, my sister, they all had a better sense of their finances. It wasn't about distrust, it was about survival. The condo was our only asset left, but David had taken out that lien against it. We had to sell. After paying the debt, there was barely enough for a security deposit and a few months' rent. That second downsizing was a public auction of our failure. I watched a stranger buy the dining table that had hosted 30 Thanksgivings. Another woman bought my wedding china for a pittance. They were hauling away pieces of my soul for pocket change. David and I couldn't survive it. He couldn't stand the disappointment in my eyes, and I couldn't look at the man who had detonated our life. He moved in with his brother. If you've ever found yourself suddenly alone after decades of partnership, you know the kind of silence I'm talking about. It's sitting down to watch a show you both loved and realizing there's no one to turn to share the laugh. It's a loneliness that echoes. Before I go on, I need to speak to you for a second. Ladies, please hear me on this. If any part of this story is making your stomach tighten, if you have that nagging feeling that you don't know the whole financial story in your own home, please do not ignore it. My greatest regret isn't the money. It was my own silence, my choice to stay in the dark because it felt easier. If this story feels important, please consider subscribing. My only goal now is to use this pain to help someone else avoid it. Clicking that button helps these stories reach more women who might desperately need to hear them. Now, let me tell you what I've learned. It took a long time to see past the grief. For months, I just felt like a victim. But you can't live there forever. I had to find lessons in the wreckage, like a woman passing down wisdom to her sisters. Lesson 1. Financial partnership is non-negotiable. If you've trusted him to handle it all, I was you. I let David have his money, and I had the household money. That was my mistake. In a marriage, it's our money, and there can be no silent partners. It isn't about a lack of trust. It's about mutual respect. If your partner resists that kind of openness, that itself is the biggest red flag. Lesson 2. Understand everything you sign. When we sold our house, I signed papers I didn't fully understand. That memory haunts me. Never again. Never sign anything without understanding exactly what it means. If you need to, pay for an independent third-party advisor, a fiduciary who is legally required to act in your best interest, to explain it, not your husband's golf buddy. Lesson 3. Downsizing isn't a magic wand. We saw that big check from the house sale and felt invincible. That feeling is a trap. Cashing out your home equity to play the stock market is an incredibly risky move. Your home is a stable asset, the market is not. Downsizing can be smart, but only as one piece of a very careful plan. Lesson 4. A pension is sacred. If you are lucky enough to have a pension, treat it like gold. That guaranteed monthly income is a rare and precious thing. When David took the lump sum payout, he traded our security for a pile of cash to gamble with. It was a catastrophic mistake. Lesson 5. Emotion is the enemy of good investing. David's downfall was pure emotion, greed on the way up and sheer panic on the way down. A good retirement plan should be boring. Panicking and selling when the market dips is just a way of locking in your losses. I'll never get the money back. I'll likely never get the trust or the marriage back either. My future is not the one I spent a lifetime building. But I am not broken. There is a strange strength you find when you survive the worst thing you can imagine. I lost the house, the money, and the marriage. But I found myself. And that is enough to keep going. My redemption won't come from rebuilding wealth, but from sharing this story. If my story keeps even one woman from ending up where I am, then it was worth telling. If you're married, please go to your partner tonight. Not with an accusation, but with a loving question. Are we truly a team with our money? Are there any secrets? Trust me, the fear of an awkward conversation is nothing compared to the agony that silence can create. If you're a woman who has taken a back seat with the finances, it's time to get in the driver's seat alongside your partner. Your future is too important to leave in someone else's hands. Just start small. Look at one bank statement. Ask one question. Just start. My life is smaller now in ways I never imagined, but in some ways it's more focused. I've reconnected with friends. I find joy in a walk, a library book, a call with my kids. My story isn't about what I lost. It's about what was left when the smoke cleared. Me. And I am still standing. Thank you for listening. Watch this next for another gripping tale of retirement gone wrong, plus the lesson you can't afford to miss.